Welcome, everyone, to the return of the Movies After Midnight podcast, the most inconsistently released podcast on the internet.
It's like we're like those old fan fictions. It's like, hey guys, I lost my car, my dog ran away, and life got really busy.
They finally let me out of house arrest, so I was able to finish up this chapter. Yeah, it's been a good while, and we are back in this month of October 2023, covering a whole bunch of movies with a special guest. Who is this joining us today?
Hi! Oh my god! Hi! I'm a big fan. My name is Erynn. I am a filmmaker and an actress. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I'm just so excited that Evelyn has picked me.
You live in Tinseltown, USA.
I live in Hollywood. The city of angels, you say? Yes, and I am just so happy because, I used to have a film podcast, and we won't name it,
Yeah.
But I just, doing it on your own kind of sucks. So yeah. I'm super happy to be here.
That's
because it's fun.
If you want to know how, if we want to know whether being on your own sucks for a podcast, listen to some of the previous episodes of Movies After Midnight.
No, they're so good. They're so good. It's just like,
yeah, no,
I just feel like you're lecturing to like nobody.
What? Yeah. Like, yeah, because I could do like a video essay, but yeah, we've come full circle, and Erynn and I are joining forces to cover a whole bunch of movies, hopefully every day, for the month of October, and this project all germinated from a discussion of the Howling series, so that is where we're starting today.
Yeah, we just got super into Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
And his white sunglasses and the Howling 2.
Yeah. Which, honestly, that was a really weird thing to have in the back of my head the whole time I was watching this movie, which is, like, very serious and deals with, like, some heavy subject matter, and, like, I'm just like, this is all...
But, like, it was also incredibly silly. Like... Not to jump ahead, but the hard cut when he's like, I'm sure she's gonna be fine, to like the werewolf choking her out was so funny.
Oh yeah, that there was some good. I feel like there were, because I don't know. I guess it's just on this podcast especially, like I don't cover movies that are like really well made a lot. And so I was like, as soon as the intro started, I was like, man, they are building suspense. There's, like, good camera work. There's, like, performances. There's a fuck ton of TV actors whose names I recognize.
Yeah. So, okay, wait. Do you want to get right into it? How do you feel? Do you want to start from the tippy top? Because that point actually was one of my, like, first things I wrote down.
What, about the actors or the intro?
The like crazy camera work, like I felt it was so wild, like that news anchor looking into the mirror practicing, but it's like over the shoulder on him. That was the most mind-blowing camera work I've ever seen in my life.
And just because there's a shot that where she's like taking a picture of like the photos that are up in his wall, and she's like reflected in the mirror, and like, or the not to get super ahead, spoilers for this movie that came out in 1980, but there's the part where they're like having sex in front of the campfire, and like the fire kind of frames it, and it's like,
yeah, I'm like, gosh darn. But okay, we have to go back a little bit for my first point.
Yeah,
because the first thing I wrote down was repression is the father of neurosis.
I thought, yeah.
I was obsessed with that.
Yeah, I like
that guy at the very beginning. I was obsessed with him.
It's very Hitchcock, like the psychoanalysis. Also, the guy at the beginning, I can't remember his name, but he was the guy from the original the TV show The Avengers that has nothing to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oop! I just bumped my camera. I'm sorry.
Patrick McNee, I think, was the guy. And also,
oh,
also the other face I recognized was the guy who's like the boss at the TV station. He was the bad guy in the Weird Al movie UHF, where he also played a morally like bankrupt TV executive. So I love that he just cornered that niche.
I thought that the guy who plays like the cop of the like two cops that go in when she's in the like movie theater.
Oh yeah.
The older one, like he looked like Robert De Niro's like stunt double.
I need to go back and
look
at
that. Am I watching Taxi Driver right now?
Yeah. But that also like not jumping back and forth, but I guess we're on the topic of the intro. I felt like they did a really good job of like like it felt very tense like right away. Like I didn't feel like
yeah, the way they like blocked the extras to like all be like leering at her.
Yeah,
I also thought it was incredibly interesting because when she goes into like the sex shop, like every guy is like, we've never even heard of sex. There is a lady here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and like everybody like left. And I was like, that was weird and noticeable. And then he brought it up too. He was like, she cleared the place out. I thought that was so fascinating and added to the tension a lot.
Yeah. Well, and also I feel like Dee Wallace, who plays the lead character Karen in this movie, I felt like she did a really good job of like projecting. She didn't seem weak, but she also felt very vulnerable for most of the movie, and like that really helped, like because you get it from both, like you really feel the position she's in, where she's like in these unsafe situations surrounded by like weird leering people and all this stuff. Like,
yeah, I have a point way later about that, and I completely agree with you, but one thing I did want to bring up. I thought it was incredibly funny that her name was Karen. I think Karen as a name is just ruined. But it was even funnier because they're like, she's Karen White. And I just think the Howling just put that into the culture.
Yeah, if you named a character that in 2023, that would be so on the nose.
Right? I'm like, what the heck is this name? What the hell? But yeah, she was really good. I really liked. I really felt like there was like, I like when characters change, and it really feels like where she started is not where she.
Yeah.
It feels like where she started is not where she ended. Sorry, I just smacked the shit out of my mic.
Yeah, no, you gotta show it who's boss.
Literally. Rest in peace, headphone users.
Yeah. She has a really good like arc. Like, and we'll get back to it, I guess, with the ending, but also like, because also especially after, because like we start with her. She's a news reporter, and she's been. She's been like. She received a message from some guy who was like fixated on her, and they're like, they're having like they're having her go and meet him to like, get a story out of it, and he ends up turning into a werewolf and getting shot, but it's like in this dark adult movie theater, so she doesn't really get a.
Wow. He's like wearing. Also, I just hated his wig.
Oh,
he's like wearing like a caveman wig. I was like, what the hell? What is that? Yeah, but I honestly, the way they like shoot the like lights on her face, the like projector on her face, was so insane. It looked so good.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, again, the whole intro, like the whole movie, but the intro sequence was just really, really well. Like that, I think that was my takeaway. Where I was like, there were uneven things, but like the emotional beats in this movie were carried out really well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, she, and so she like is kind of traumatized by surviving this sort of attack, and something I noticed in terms of her character arc was so we're talking about the Howling, the first Howling, from 1980. We'll get to the Howling 2 tomorrow.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, the first Howling is it's because like all the sequels are kind of remembered for being like really weird, janky, goofy movies. And I forgot like watching this one, I was like, oh shit, this is actually like a well-made, like, quote, good movie.
Yeah, it's incredibly like it's like it does blend like humor in a couple moments, but it takes itself incredibly seriously.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah, and it takes itself seriously and pulls it off. But yeah, it was directed by Joe Dante, who would go on to direct a lot of things. Gremlins and Small Soldiers are like his two biggest things.
I did not know that. That's wild.
Yeah. And it was based off of a novel with which it doesn't really follow the novel terribly closely. It keeps, I think the novel ends with like a passage about like they're driving away and all she can hear is the howling, and so we get title. But basically what the movie has in common with the novel is that it's a werewolf story, and specifically it follows this woman who's a TV reporter named Karen, played by Dee Wallace, she was also the mom in Cujo. That's like, those are like the only two things I know her from.
Oh, that's okay.
But she is attacked by a werewolf at the start of the movie, and like the cops show up and shoot him, and it's like it happens in the dark, so nobody really knows what happened. And so she's got this, like, she knows something bad happened, and she's like kind of traumatized by the event and processing through that, and she gets sent to this like psychiatric retreat in the woods, basically. And it's kind of a dual thing where it's about werewolves, but it's also about kind of her arc dealing with all this like trauma, basically.
In a way, it did feel like a modern, like a modern like it felt like an earlier Midsommar kind of setup.
Yeah, a little
like
bit.
Like Midsommar feels like a similar setup to this.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Because also like I think like the subtext of like, yeah, just again like going back to performances, the way they sell her as this person who's like very traumatized and like trying to hold it together, like because in something I liked about like her character arc was if you watch like during the attack when he's like, you know, turned around or whatever, and she looks at him, excuse me.
Yeah, she like sneaks into like this porn shop or whatever to meet him.
Yeah. And she like, you can see she goes to like scream, but she like can't do it. And that happens several times throughout the movie where she's like she like can't like outburst or can't react to things, and you see like it was a really good depiction of kind of where she was, like where she's like dealing with all this stuff and she feels like she has to like she can't like she's like constantly trying to hold herself together and hold everything in, which does as like on the nose as it was, it goes back to the intro clip where he's like repression and
repression is the father of neurosis. It's like literally the first line in the movie. Like that was so wild. My other favorite line in the movie was how it started with the first cop that goes in, because I guess there's like a kerfuffle.
Yeah.
And then the cops rush in and they see some guys attacking her, and then they just send one of them just shooting. And then the other one comes in and he just goes, "Oh goddamn Jesus Christ," or like something like that. And like later on in the movie, there's like another kind of reveal like that. And the woman was like, "Oh Jesus Christ." I was like, what is I just thought it was incredibly silly.
Yeah.
I loved it.
That's an interesting thing about movies sometimes, where they have to toe the line between like believable reactions and like we have to keep a certain rating so they can't be like, "Oh fuck."
Well, I think too it really helped because they really hold off on the werewolf reveal.
Yeah, they definitely slow burn it,
which was super interesting. Which okay, I also thought it was like we can talk about them as we go along for sure, but all the little wolf details the whole time are so funny. I loved them.
Yeah, well, there was one specifically that I didn't like, and then I realized it was like a setup payoff thing, and I was like, oh, okay. So there's a part where she's like in the cabin, and you see on the shelf it's like wolf chili. And, like, I saw that, and I was like, okay.
I literally wrote down, can of wolf chili when friend is in cabin.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, we're laying it on a little thick guy. But then a few scenes later, her like, boyfriend, who's, like, this is a different girl who came to help out. Her boyfriend, who's still in the city, calls the police, and it cuts to Slim Pickens, and he's eating a can of wolf chili as he's like, oh yeah, I'll go and like she'll be fine. And I was like, oh shit, that's the movie telling us that he's like, you know, he's part of this. And I was like, okay, Howling, I see you.
I mean, to be real though, I feel like he felt so obviously a part of it from the very beginning.
I mean it's yeah, but like, you know, I
so next she goes. Where does she go next? That's when she goes to the psychiatric. Oh no!
Yeah,
no. It goes into like more news anchor stuff.
I was kind of, it was funny, but funny in a depressingly realistic way, where like she's survived this attack and is clearly like traumatized, like she's like yelling out in her sleep, and then the next day she's just like going into work and is like, oh yeah, this is just gonna be normal now, and yeah,
one of the guys is like, she is a mess.
Yeah, and she like kind of freaks out on air, and they're like, okay, we're sending you. Also, there was that weird running gag, like not running gag, but these continued references to like a Japanese lady who is, I guess, also working at the news studio.
Oh yeah, that was so random.
It was a very odd detail because like
it was like, oh, thank you for that information.
Yeah, because
that never pays off. Do you ever see her ever?
I don't think so. Yeah, like because it's just because at the start he's like, oh, get what's her name. You know, we'll have her fill in, and then later at the like when they get to the camp, someone's like, "Oh, you're my second favorite news person, right after that one Asian lady," and that's like the only reference we get to that person. But she like
we don't get to see this iconic. It was like commentary against showing the best.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I really, I thought the moment where the news anchor, he's like in the mirror, I thought that scene was so impeccable.
Yeah.
I just thought it said so much, and it was so simple, but so effective. And like the shot is so crazy. He's like looking through the mirror into the camera, and like you think he's on air, and then it like pushes out, and he's just in the like dressing room. It was so crazy.
Yeah. Whoever was doing cinematography, like they played around a lot, like because even shots that like maybe it didn't necessarily like need to be, some shots like didn't need to be as complicated as they were, but they like, you know, they did something different because why not?
So then she goes to the psychiatric place, and the cast of characters, my favorite character was obviously Earl. He's this old man who's just over it the whole time.
Yeah, he like tries to
throw himself into the fire, and everybody's like, "Oh, Earl just wants so much attention." And I was like, "Earl is suicidal."
Yeah,
this is serious.
It's almost as if they're kind of a fucked up werewolf cult and not actually like a group of people there for each other's mutual benefit.
Which, like, okay, the werewolf cult, I, like, feel like it had to have been what Hot Fuzz was referencing.
That, maybe.
It feels incredibly like Hot Fuzz the whole time. Like, from, like, the second she's, like, in the town interacting with everybody.
I haven't seen Hot Fuzz, actually. That's like, still on my... The only Cornetto movie I've seen was...
Hot Fuzz.
I've seen Shaun of the Dead. I haven't seen like the other two in that.
I think you would love it.
I think
you should watch it.
Yeah. I've been told by a few people. No, because weren't we talking about Hot Fuzz when we did all the James Bond movies because of Timothy Dalton?
I feel like actually now that I'm reflecting, we've had this conversation like 4 times. Yeah.
And
every time I'm like aghast.
Doofus who still hasn't watched it.
No, it's totally fine. I mean, there are a lot of movies out. You had to watch other movies like The Howling, 1981.
Exactly. But also, like, she's awful and like the worst person in this movie, but like the like evil sexy witch lady or whatever, like she's so cool. She's horrible, but she's so cool.
Yeah, she's sick as she reminds me of like that woman in Witch's Ghost, Thorn or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's cool as fuck. I was like, this bitch knows how to dress. I love her style and aesthetic and vibe. I gotta say though, the like affair between the two of them.
Yeah, that was a little.
It was just incredibly stilted, and I think it's just a reflection on the 80s, but I found it incredibly fascinating because they like, show she kisses Karen's husband.
Yeah.
And he like pushes her away at the last minute, and so you're like, oh, okay, maybe he's a good guy.
Yeah. I was a little disappointed. I was like, I was rooting for you, buddy.
I was rooting for you, Gordon Lightfoot. Just kidding. He looks exactly like him. It's crazy.
Yeah, we had a discussion about
my
like
mind.
Guys with
I'm
mustaches
super into like
in the
70s music, and like what's with the mustaches that era?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's we were talking about this before, but I was like
if there's every guy.
If there's one thing that galvanizes my assurance that I am in fact a lesbian, it's that like I have never seen a guy with a mustache and not just been like repulsed.
Okay, I can't agree with you there because I quite like a mustache, but I don't think I like the like super thick like Ned Flanders stash everybody in the 70s have, like, you know?
Yeah, it's
like a caterpillar. I like the Fabio, the like little.
That's almost worse to me. I don't know, but again, I am biased.
Maybe Fabio was. Yeah, exactly, Evelyn. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. What? So, yeah. She kind of like. Yeah, because they bring her husband into the werewolf cult, and they like werewolf snog in front of a campfire.
Yeah, it honestly it happened so fast, but I also felt like it was too long. But my favorite part of it was when it like is like this weird like painting of the two werewolves over the campfire all of a sudden. It's like all these beautiful shots of them, and then this like it was giving that Celine Dion song I keep singing that I'm not gonna sing right now for whatever reasons.
It was. Yeah, there was like that era where like CG wasn't really a thing, so they were like kind of experimenting with like funky rotoscope stuff. And there's this one shot of like the cartoon werewolves in the foreground, kind of.
Which like it was like you could have just kept showing me these shots and it would have been fine. Yeah. Like just give one of them an ear or something.
I mean
I also was a little confused because I thought that they were gonna kill each other or something. I didn't know what was happening for a half a second. I got a little lost in the sauce.
They're releasing their primal instincts or what? Yeah.
I got so lost in the sauce with that scene. I was like, is it a comedy? Is it a romance? Is it a murder that's about to happen? What's going on?
I will say, I feel like because we get a lot of horny vampire movies, like that's dime a dozen. We don't get that many horny werewolf movies. I feel like, so I'm like, glad we're being repped here.
And the other thing that I wanted to talk about was, I feel like it's very fascinating that a lot of werewolf, because I feel like when I think about wolves contextually, like socially, it's like, lone wolf kind of vibes, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm just a lone wolf. But like, I feel like a lot of werewolf stuff, and there is this scene for like a minute I think it's right before she goes to the clinic, where she stops at a bookstore.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, no, the bookstore is next, right?
Yeah,
the bookstore is next.
There's kind of a B plot where like her friend and the camera guy that worked with her are kind of like following up on like the dude that attacked her. And yeah, they go to this bookstore that Dick Miller is the guy who runs the like occult bookstore.
I love him. I thought everything about the bookstore was absolutely delightful. But it goes back to this like werewolf point I wanted to bring up, because it's like I feel like werewolves, like, they feel like so like culty in like a different way than a lot of other lore does. Like, it's super fascinating. I never really thought about it until now. But like vampire, it's like a culty, but like it's not like a coven of people. You know what I mean? It's like kind of weird in that way, because I feel like it's different than that lone wolf kind of archetype. But what do you think about that? I don't know.
Yeah, because I think it definitely works as like a like the idea of like a wolf pack or whatever. Where because I think like the idea of like
my wolf pack, join the wolf pack. If you're on TikTok.
The NWO wolf pack from like 2000 or whatever. But yeah, we're like, because I guess like a lot of times, because also it ties into like what culturally they represent, and like because like a lot of times like vampires would represent like sexuality in like different myths, and werewolves don't necessarily have that, but I think they have the like the idea of like werewolf-free as a communicable thing that can be passed on. I think it's kind of like, at least in this movie, definitely it almost feels like getting pulled into the bad crowd kind of like dynamic.
Yeah, a little bit, for sure.
Or like
yeah, because I think in that like a little way, for sure, it's that like him not eating meat. So her husband the whole time like refuses a ton of food because he doesn't eat meat.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that come around where like he essentially gets pressured into like eating meat, and it leads to like the werewolf thing happening in the wonderful sex scene we were discussing.
Yeah. Well, and then you get like Karen's reaction, because her friend is like, "Oh, I didn't bring any vegetables," and he's like eating this rabbit that he killed and cooked earlier, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm fine with meat," and she's like, "That's really weird."
Which it was really weird, because he's being really weird about it.
Yeah. Because I think
rabbit is delicious.
Because I guess like I was thinking in terms of like philosophically, I think like, because at first like I liked the husband character because he seemed like someone, he genuinely like cared about what she was going through and was trying to be supportive. And then like, you know, he gets pulled into the werewolf stuff, and he starts like, you know, being a dick and stuff. I think it communicates, because like with the movie being so about like her like surviving trauma, I think him getting pulled into that kind of communicates the emotional reality of like feeling isolated after trauma, or like even the people that you trusted and relied upon, whether they are or aren't in reality, it kind of feels like they're either like drifting away or becoming like, so yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I totally see what you mean, and I totally agree with you. It's also really interesting how well their reverse arc is, because you don't see a lot of movies pull that off really well, because I think there's always this pressure for some kind of wrap up in the ending, I guess, or some kind of reconciliation, even if it's like it can be like a La La Land, like, yeah, we'll never, you know what I mean? Like, it could be like kind of that thing, or it could be like we're together, blah, blah. But I felt like it was super interesting that this really took it a completely different direction.
Yeah.
And because I also felt like it was interesting how he was so for sure in the wrong the whole time. And I think the way he's acting from the very start of things, it kind of it sets it up so that it doesn't feel unbelievable that he's losing all of these characteristics that make him like a good person over the course of time, and where it escalates to like even the like later on in the film, we won't talk about the scene in full yet, but like later on he even like slaps her.
Yeah.
And that was wild. I gasped. I was like,
that was
I was shook, but I don't want to jump ahead. Where were we next?
Yeah, we left the occult bookstore.
Yeah, the bookstore. I love that really quick last wrap up about the bookstore. I loved the part where he was like, "Do you believe in this stuff?" And he's like, "Look, are you gonna fucking buy it or not?"
Well, and also we get the setup and payoff, or I guess it is kind of literally a Chekhov's gun of where he's like, some dude fucking sold me these silver bullets a while back. Ain't that crazy? And the camera guy's like, I'll take a couple.
Literally. And then there's that scene where what is it, the same bookstore where they like talk about silver bullets? It's like fully like in Food Fight when he's like, it's not like you're never gonna see sunshine again. It's the last time we're seeing sunshine. Silver bullets.
Yeah. Literally.
I forgot silver bullets was a wolf thing until I saw that again.
Yeah, with the because we deal with her back at the camp. She because she's been her husband gets brought into the fold, and I think it's because her,
she's like doing like that group therapy, right?
Yeah, where they're
which I felt was an incredibly awful therapy exercise, but I mean, I'm not a therapist.
I mean, hey, I know this traumatic thing that happened last week. Could you just tell us what happened?
Could you just recount the whole thing? And then I think
to this room of strangers
he's like,
that you don't know.
Yeah, and then when she has like a breakdown about it, it sounds like the therapist is like annoyed with her.
Yeah.
I guess you need more time, I guess. Jesus.
And I can't remember why, but she calls her friend to come like I guess for emotional support, basically. And
I thought it was really interesting how she's very clearly like painted as mentally ill the whole time. Mm-hmm. But it's like this fine balance where she's still believed. She's not like just written off as like a crazy person the whole time.
Yeah.
And I thought that created a really interesting dynamic with her friend and the camera, the like whole B plot and how the B plot played in.
Yeah, because they're never like, oh, just let her. Yeah, they're always like very.
Like, you're off your rocker. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's super nice. It's very interesting because I feel like a lot of films that deal with like mental health in the horror space, just in general, I feel like they use it as like a way to invalidate the character. And I thought it was super interesting how her mental health felt like it was taken incredibly seriously the whole time.
Yeah, like it's literally from like the start.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I don't really feel like you see in movies a lot, but
we skipped over the scene when like the camera guy and her friend like visit the morgue, and there's like the one morgue guy who's like, oh yeah, it doesn't bother me, and it cuts to he's just got a cheeseburger sitting next to like a dissected brain, and that was such a good shot.
It was a pretty good moment. It was pretty good. I also like the hamburger through line.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny because I guess it is the most like werewolfy. We'll talk about the last scene later, but back to the hamburger is going to come up again. The hamburger will return
because wolves eat meat because they're feral instincts. Yeah. So what happens? Because her friend like does some looking around because I think there's
like 2 encounters with the werewolf, so it's like it kind of sucks with her friend because like I feel like it's like they set you up just to tear you down, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because she kind of gets away the first time, right?
Because she
gets
goes
away
out
the first time because she goes to the cabin.
Yeah, and she cuts the dude's arm off with an axe, which is pretty gnarly.
Which was so hardcore.
It was a really good effect too. Like the way it kind of like, because his arm like it's a werewolf arm, and she cuts it off, and as she runs away, it like turns back into a human arm, and they have it like, you know, like bloating and pulsating and stuff. It's a really good like practical effect.
Yeah, honestly, the werewolves looked like obviously they were like another time, but like I thought they were well done.
Yeah, well, I thought like I think they did a good. They were designed really well because with werewolves, it's easy to accidentally make something that looks silly. Whereas the whole time I felt like I believed that these were like dangerous things. Which I guess
so she gets away the first time, which is super super. Like, you're like, oh, you know, I actually thought there was going to be a lot more overt, like, murder and death the whole time, but they really do hold on to it till the end.
It's very slow burn.
Also, I just want to point out the score in this moment with the organ is, like, impeccable, and I think the score did an excellent job in enhancing everything.
I think I wrote down what's with the Count Chocula music. Because I forgot. Literally, I was like, oh, the pipe
whole
organ.
Thing
cool.
Sounds like that, like, like it kind of like has that kind of twang to it.
Yeah, like very Phantom
Which was
of the
interesting
Opera.
because like, yeah. Because they were I was kind of scared for a second when she got to the camp the first time because they're very like. With like banjos and stuff, and I was like, is it gonna be like that the whole time?
I can't. Someone described there are scenes sometimes in movies where there's like this weird scene where you're like, what the fuck was that? But then like the rest of the movie is good enough that you just kind of block it out and don't remember it as part of the greater experience. But yeah, the banjos on the beach.
Trying to kill himself was incredible. I think it's just so wonderful we got to see that banjo scene on the beach. And on the same day that the ugliest girl on the beach was released.
Oh shit! Yeah. Shout out. Also, this won't be the last hoedown that we experience in the Howling series, but we'll get to that later.
But that's for another day.
Put a pin in that bad boy.
Oh my god, yeah. And the organ. Oh yeah, then it gets to it gets to the sexual scene. And he gets his back all cut up. And him and this goth lady, his goth mommy and him, they get it on near the fire in a very honestly, it felt like it was shot it felt kind of like The Room. I'm going to be honest with you. It felt like The Room in that it was too long and they were thrusted at the belly buttons and I was like you are my rose, you are my rose.
God. I mean, yeah, I guess I was just focused on like because it's kind of like a weird double thing because it's like a sex scene, but also it like I think it's the first time we see people actually like transform into werewolves.
Yeah, it's definitely like I was like, I don't want to watch this anymore, but I respect their decision to make it that long because that is a very good point.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I liked the again maybe very on the head, but like because it's framed where like you have the whole right of frame is like this campfire in the foreground, and then like the two of them getting frisky in the background.
You get a lot of crossfades.
Yeah, it's like he that's the visual signifier of him being consumed by the flames of passion and dadness or whatever,
And then so she cuts up his back, and then I thought it was incredibly funny because there's this little like it's not really a scene, it's kind of just like a transition where it's before the sexual encounter and Karen and her friend are discussing, and the first time she gets there and she's like, I just think he's sleeping with her. And she's like, oh, well, like, why? And it's just a feeling. Hard cut to both of them literally having sex at the beach. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Literally, yeah.
But then it leads into this really interesting scene. And I feel like it's really where a lot of the character moments come to a head. Because it's the first time it's really the first time you see her stand up for herself. and
Yeah.
like be active, because like you even said, like even in that opening moment when she was like, she could scream for her safety, even, you know what I mean, she's too afraid to even like do that in that moment, and then she's kind of overtaken by a lot of like stressful situations. But I find it super interesting because her and her husband are like discussing, and it gets into a heated thing. She's like, how's your back cut up like that? Oh my god, I completely forgot. Wait, they have hunted, they like, he is attacked by a wolf earlier in the movie. Did we mention that?
Yeah, was he attacked by a wolf? I thought he just kind of lied about that.
He was attacked by a wolf. He's attacked by a wolf because he tries to like explain away the cuts on his back and is like, no, babe, I was just attacked by the wolf, you know? And it was from a few days ago. And she goes, it was not a few days ago. And then he just fucking slaps the shit out of her.
Yeah, like
it's like that scene in The Public Enemy when he like shoves her face in the grapefruit, and you're like, whoa.
Also, I thought,
but I love it because she stands up for herself immediately. Yeah. She's like, she doesn't even entertain it. She's like, I'm leaving, bitch. But what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I forgot like the first scene, because it's like like there's a scene right before that, because he like is sitting, he's like been cut by the werewolf and he hasn't transformed yet, and he's like sitting in bed with her, and he's reading this book, and the book is like, you can never go home again. And I'm like, what subtle scene dressing. Which
they were getting the funniest one that comes in the next scene. So like the friend goes and investigates another like little area.
Yeah.
It's like this doctor's office. And she calls the camera up, and like on his desk for some reason is just a copy of Howl by Allen Ginsberg. Yeah. And I was like, what does that have to do with anything except that it's called Howl?
Yeah. Well, and then also he's watching like a Big Bad Wolf cartoon like on TV.
Which honestly, I think I really respect films that do that, because I feel like I like a tight movie.
Yeah.
I like a tight film. And this was a really tight film. Yeah. Like every single detail, they pulled no bars. And I think that's why it's so good. Like every single detail feeds back to that kind of full thesis. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, everything kind of comes back, and it's like thought out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then her friend gets fucking got.
Yeah. By because they established earlier the guy that was shot in the porn theater at the start of the movie has like, you know, left because he's a werewolf, and he's not, bullets don't hurt him, and he has made his way back. And he has
been a serial killer?
What?
He's like the serial killer, right?
Yeah.
And he's like a serial killer around Los Angeles.
Yeah, and
Los Angeles.
You know, because he's fixated on Karen, he makes his way back to this camp and ends up killing her friend.
Incredibly sad. I was like, damn.
I was
honestly starting to think no one was gonna die.
Yeah, I knew her friend was gonna die, because I was like, she's too good of a person to make it through this movie. I know how these movies work, and there's no way.
Yeah, she is a really good friend. And then, okay, so then literally it just goes from 0 to 100. And then Karen immediately just decides she needs to go to the doctor because... Which, you know, she felt the shift in the universe and was like, I need to be at the doctor's office right now. So she goes to the doctor's office and she finds the doctor, and I don't, this is like the one like moment that I felt really odd, because I felt like her reaction didn't like match the moment. She kind of just like looks disappointed. She pulls back the sheet and the doctor's dead, and she's like,
Well, I think I think that was part of that arc I was talking about, where she's like, she seems distressed, because like I almost saw it as like where she's like, I want to freak out, but I can't do that right now. I have so much stuff. Like she's continually like forcing herself to not react to things, even though she like.
I couldn't tell how she was reacting, if I'm being honest with you, but that makes a lot of sense actually. Because
that was where I really like got that the most, of like her, like it was, again, it's like a build of something that's been there the whole movie, where she's like,
Mm.
she's always like trying to keep it together, and you can see her like straining more and more, and she's constantly trying to like hold everything back.
Yeah, because I guess in a way, even her walking away so fast from the slap, it's, she's just like removing herself, which is a valid response.
Yeah.
But she's still like kind of, it feels like she's like putting how she feels on the back burner
Yeah.
to like dealing with the emotions.
Yeah, and like even at the start when they're like, because she's kind of like doesn't have a memory of what happened because she's kind of like blocked it out, and she says something like, "I don't know if I want to remember," and it's like that same kind of thing where she's not ready to confront anything, so she just kind of keeps trying, like, moving.
Go off, Karen.
Yeah, that 2023, go off, Karen.
And like, go off, Karen. And so while this situation with her friend is happening, she's on the phone with the camera guy, and the camera guy calls the cops. And the cops are just so lollygagging, as they should in a horror movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then when she arrives, like, it's kind of works out time-wise so that when Karen is there, like, her encounter with the werewolf and this guy, but she's kidnapped, I believe, right, in this moment? She kidnapped and taken?
Yeah, because there's
kidnapped.
the guy shows up that was, like, and she was like, "You're supposed to be dead," and he's like, "No, I'm an evil guy and I can't be killed," and stuff, and she like throws some acid on his face and is able to get away from him, and then after she gets away from him, the cops show up and are like, "Hey, we're actually here to bring you in," and that's when she got it. It kind of reminded me of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, how she gets to the like front and she's like, "Oh, take me away," and he just takes her like back to the house.
Oh yeah, that shit is so, yeah. And I think it's really interesting because they have a couple of moments like that where they like kind of set you up to expect one thing and then they circumvent it. It's really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when the like, it's like very Rosemary's Baby as well, where it's just the hard like, we're all secret occultists who are werewolves.
Yeah, I will say, yeah, that was, if any scene like didn't do it for me, that this part did, because like I get the reveal that everyone is werewolves works, but then they start like arguing about werewolf politics, and I'm like, this is an interesting concept, but we do not have enough time to like explore it properly in this story.
Yeah, it was like, and then there's all these power dynamics that you kind of see throughout the movie, but they're not like fully, it's not really the point of the movie.
Yeah.
So you don't quite get enough of the power dynamics for all these confrontations to feel particularly, like you say, relevant, but also like they didn't feel like earned emotionally.
Yeah, it felt very sudden, because all like through the whole movie you're like, "Oh, this is a society of werewolves and they're all bad," and then like all of a sudden the movie introduces like, they're all bad, but like this doctor is actually, he's like trying to advocate for like, like balance and like being werewolves like who compromise, and then the old man who tried to kill himself is actually like, "No, fuck that, we should just start killing humans again." And like, I mean, I guess that's kind of a reveal, because like when he tries to kill himself and stuff, he's like, "I can't keep doing it," and like even once you realize stuff, you're like, "Oh, he's talking about being a werewolf," and then like at the end it's like, "Oh, he's talking about, I can't keep being a peaceful werewolf," which is kind of a reveal, but again, like you said, it didn't really feel earned because nothing foreshadowed that like, really.
And also, yeah, I think if I do have one critique, I think the way this whole cast of characters is integrated, like, is a little bit like it feels a little odd at times. Like, it feels a little odd, and I wish they had focused. They could have afforded maybe like 15 more minutes throughout.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I think that would have maybe fully sold. But
well,
it's totally.
Yeah. That makes me wonder.
Loved. Oh, no, what were you saying?
That makes me wonder if any of these characters were in the... I need to read the novel, because I wonder if some of this stuff was stuff that
so
maybe they were like,
sense.
this was in the novel and it was actually fleshed out, so we kind of have to include it because it doesn't make sense if it's not here.
Do you want to know what, Evelyn? That's probably exactly what it is, because it really does feel like this is clear. I just feel like I'm missing. It's like a clear A, a clear Z, and you get like random letters. You get like the H, you get the J and the K, you get L, M, N, O, P, but like you don't get the full alphabet between them, and so you're a little lost in the sauce. But that would make sense if it was a book thing for sure. One of my favorite little side things, which is similar to the bookstore, it's a very like side moment.
Oh yeah.
Like there's this random guy who's just like, not all of us could drive a Mazda, so you need to just like be. There's like they have like something in a standoff. Like this woman is about to get murdered by this werewolf cult and turn into a werewolf and all this shit, and then there's just like a silly like road trip movie happening.
Yeah. Well, I did
to
like
get to her.
That was kind of amusing.
I loved it.
Yeah. Well, also just how the camera guy turns out to be like the hero and stud of the whole movie, because he's like, he shows up and he's like, because he shows up to where his girlfriend was dead, and the guy from before now has half his face melted off, and he's like, oh, what are you gonna do? And he like takes the gun from him and he gives it back to him because he's like, guns can't hurt me, I'm a werewolf, and not knowing that it's filled with silver bullets, and the guy's like, fuck you, I've got silver bullets. And then from that point on, he's like, he practically kicks the door down. He's like, all right, let her go, I'm taking you out. I'm taking you out. It's very.
It felt like what Travis Bickle was trying to do.
It reminds me of if anyone's seen the Phantasm movies, how the character of Reggie the Ice Cream Man goes from like, he's like a random sidekick in the first movie to like just like Evil Dead Ash Williams level badass the rest of the series. Mm-hmm. Like it was almost that, but in one movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. And honestly, you know, I think in a way it works for him because he's kind of set up as this like kind of like not quite shy, but like definitely very held back person.
Yeah.
And so I think in a way like him becoming more aggressive with time like really is a nice arc for him as well.
Yeah. Again, yeah, that's everyone felt like they did have an arc of some kind, at least the main characters. Because then like all the werewolves are in this barn, and they like close the door, and he like lights the barn. They light the barn on fire, and like, you know, like cook all the werewolves inside. And then
raw, please.
And then you know, as they're driving out there, Slim Pickens shows up, and he's a werewolf with a gun, which is the scariest thing.
Oh no, what are we gonna do now?
And he like shoots out their tires, and there's a shootout, like, you know, where they're like pew, and then they miss, and then they're pew, and I was like, that's a little weird to throw at the end of all this, but you know, okay.
It was a little like when the werewolf showed up with the gun, I was like, okay, this is a little suspension of disbelief. Yeah. We're getting a little bit into like, I mean, we're getting a little bit wacky here. I respect it.
I felt like it made sense because they've established like that these are intelligent werewolves.
Yeah, I also think it's very, I mean, like, it definitely like is a reflection on the stakes for sure, because up until this point, werewolves have been able to just do their brute strength for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so they take him out, and then some other werewolves like jump on the car because their car's shot, so they have to get out and then go to the police car and then drive that off. And during the like kerfuffle where a couple other werewolves catch up to him, I think it's her husband that ends up being the one to scratch her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that son of a bitch.
Yeah. Dork. And like they kill him, and they like, she's like there's something going on and people have to know.
Her like Scarlett O'Hara, I will never be hungry again. She's like,
yeah,
we have to tell them. We have to tell the people, they must believe.
Yeah, that was it.
I loved it. I thought it was such a. I thought it was.
See
it
that
was
that
such
felt
a great like. Yeah.
That felt earned. That felt earned.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So then it like cuts forward to them back at the news station, and they're like they like show the teleprompter and it shows she's like going off script about this, like the human condition, all this stuff, and she's like, there's a society of werewolves, and I'm gonna show you, and she like and like becomes a werewolf on TV to like expose that there's werewolves, and then the camera guy has to like shoot her, and it's like that scene was that was the thing I knew about this movie, because it's like that scene's like the thing people remember this movie for. And I was surprised how, even though I knew it was coming, it still hit me on an emotional level, especially because that's where like I mentioned like how she can she never lets herself scream, and like the first thing she does as she starts turning into a werewolf is let out like this really loud like scream, and so that's like the completion of her arc where she's finally like facing everything.
Yeah, and it feels like it still feels a little like Psycho in a way, where you're just like I was just surprised.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it doesn't. I guess it's like it makes sense, but it's not necessarily where you think the film will go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it feels like it's so easy to drop it off at that last pin when they're driving away.
Okay. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, but she's scratched. Oh my God. And then the film's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think taking it all the way there was really, really a good choice for sure. And I think it really enhanced the film.
Yeah, well, because I think it ties it back to this was a movie about her arc, as opposed to just a movie about werewolves. Although
yeah, for sure.
The one thing that did take away a little bit is like, because she's a good character and a sympathetic character, like they make her werewolf look a little less like pointy and a little less mangy, and it's almost it's giving like, it almost looks kind of puppy like. And I'm
she's
like,
domesticated.
Yeah, cause like, and I'm like, okay, I get why they did that, because they're like, they want it to, to look like her and to look more sympathetic, but also this is just a little silly looking. But
and then my favorite final moment, the final pin on everything. The hot goth girl shows up at some like biker club or whatever.
Yeah.
Or like some diner or something. I couldn't quite tell what it was.
Because it's kind of like it's like the reveal at the end of Glass, or at the end of
yeah. She goes up and he says, "What would you like?" And she goes, "A burger." And he's like, "How would you like that?" And she goes, "Raw." And then they just cook the burger in the credits. Yeah. I can't believe the menu was homaging this classic. No.
Well, I remember the whole credit sequence. I was just shit talking the guy's like grill form, because I'm like, oh, he flipped a little early there. He didn't even get any like Maillard.
Jeez,
like,
he's really taking her requests seriously. I used to have this friend in high school, and she would order her burgers raw, like literally right out of the package with a little sear on either side.
Okay.
And she would like explain it that way.
I think that,
and, like, I think it was because her mom was a bodybuilder, and it was like I don't know. Like, meat is better.
Does she have have you heard werewolves? Have you heard from her recently that maybe she had an iron deficiency or something?
Were they werewolves?
Oh shit!
Oh my God, Evelyn! Just kidding.
That there was some like post I saw a long time ago that was like, it was like a trans guy being like, man, nobody told me testosterone makes you want like so much raw meat. And then they followed that up with another post. So it turns out I had an iron deficiency.
Nah, that's real. And honestly, is this character supposed to be Sturba Werewolf bitch?
I don't
like. What is she? Does she ever come back?
I don't think we ever get a follow up on her, because like, yeah, because
I kind of liked her. I was like, she's cool.
She's again, yeah, she
I want to be her.
She served cunt, as they say.
Yeah, literally.
And yeah,
she showed up slayed.
Because yeah, it definitely seemed like they were trying to set up like, you know, her, because especially like she was kind of the bad one like the whole time, and like at the end it's like she's getting everyone to rally towards her instead of towards the scientist, and so they kind of set her up that way. But I don't think she's supposed to be the same character.
Okay, got it. I wasn't sure if it was like she was supposed to be what Sturba Werewolf bitch became.
Yeah. The, that's the werewolf world is just run by like goth women in headbands, I guess.
You know what? I get that. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to me, actually.
I'd let my world be run by a goth woman in a headband, I'll tell you that much.
I'm so dead.
But yeah,
what a stunning film. I really liked it. I gave it I don't rate films, but I gave it a heart on Letterboxd.
I do rate films. I give it like 4.5 stars.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good rate. It was like super well done. It's just a super well done film.
Yeah. Again, like that was like I turned that off and I was like, that was a good movie. That was a very like I got something emotionally from it, and because I saw, as you'll see in the coming week, someone mentioned they were like, you know, the Howling brand has kind of like not been handled the best maybe, but we keep going to see these things every time there's a sequel because one movie was good in like 1980, and now I'm like, yeah, I'd hold out hope. Like based on this movie alone, I'm like, yeah, that they earned that.
Oh yeah. And the only critique I have is that there's not enough Christopher Lee.
Yeah, shoot.
But thankfully, tomorrow
we're gonna get Christopher Lead.
We're gonna get Lead.
I was gonna be like, there aren't enough boobs in this movie. There was actually a surprising amount of boobs in this movie.
There was like full frontal. I was like, whoa. I was like, also, like, whoa.
This is one of those things where like sometimes when you watch movies in like HD that weren't made, like, you know, that were made in the era of film when things were more like less high def, there's like things, you know, because there is like a frame during that sex scene where you can see his junk, like just for half a second. And I was like, that's not something you could have seen back in the day, but us
hell yeah
in 2023.
You know what movie was like that? Possession was like that, because like the crazy reveal was like, I mean, it was still very shocking. It was still an excellent movie, right? But the creature looked a little odd to me. I was like, this is weird, and I don't think this is right. And I was reading that it looks a lot like, it just looks a lot clearer with the restoration, and it wasn't supposed to be quite as clear.
Oh, yeah. That's because I was thinking that with the like hand-drawn animated Werewolf Part 2, because I was thinking that looks goofy now, but if you saw it like a little blurrier, it probably looked way better.
It'd probably be way less. Yeah, no, for sure. I think it being high def was super shocking to me. Like, I used to watch a lot of HBO family shows when I was growing up, and it literally looked like a still out of like some like folk tale, like wolf story. You know what I mean? I was like,
yeah,
what the hell is
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You are my rose. You are my rose. So anyway,
yeah. So that was the Howling.
Woohoo!
Let us know what you think about the Howling. Yeah, and there's probably been some physical releases out there. I don't have.
This deserves a Criterion. No, I'm just kidding. It feels like it feels like an Arrow video.
You know, it so does, or a Shout Select.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna Google the Howling Blu-ray.
Yes. What is the
Wait, that
results?
Let's see here. The Howling Collector's Edition.
What's the verdict on this?
There's a 4K on Amazon.
Holy heck.
So this movie's being cared for because it's like actually good.
Yeah, it's super good. I mean, honestly, the cinematography was insane. The cinematography and like the location. Oh my god! Just a little side note, last bit. The location they shot at was stunning.
Oh yeah.
There's like all these like impeccable shots of like the misty forest, and like it's so beautiful.
Yeah, there were some really good. Yeah. So
and tomorrow we're gonna be
yeah, we're gonna see the Howling 2. Surely, with a film this strong, they will follow up with something equally as.
Some say the Howling is like The Godfather in that the second follow-up is also one of the best films of all time.
I feel like that. Yeah, it's really illustrates the wasteland of difference that exists between definitions of what a good movie is.
Exactly. And maybe, you know what? To me, that feels deliberate.
Yeah, that was surely a choice.
But
excellent. So we will see you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Follow me at Erynn.
I mean, yeah. If you follow me at Evie Override on
Slay.
Yeah, pretty much everywhere. I don't think there's a social media platform I haven't nailed
Even
that down.
Even on X.com.
What?
Even on X.com.
I hate that. I hate you so much. Because it's about to be an X.com. Bye. Yeah. Bye. We're not finishing on that note. Bye, everyone. Hey, everyone. Evie here. If you enjoyed today's episode of Movies After Midnight, consider giving us the old like and subscribe so that you can stay up to date when we drop new episodes. Either way, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully I'll see you next time.